So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Butler. I'm Associate Dean here in the College of Engineering, Mathematics and Physical Sciences. I have responsibility for research and knowledge transfer in the college. So welcome indeed to all of you to this seminar on creative innovation, manufacturing, business, and for those of you outside the university, welcome to the University of Exeter. As you'll have seen, we have quite a packed programme of events or talks today. We also have a speaker joining us by video link who will speak a little bit later on, and I hope, at least at the moment, she can hear me speaking. Yes, she can. Lovely. Yeah, thank you for that. Just before I give my introductory talk, I thought I would just run us through very briefly the programme so we can get a head around what we're doing this morning. So about 10:15 we'll get on to our first session on creative research and innovation. So 4 speakers talking to that topic. That leaves us time for a break, a time to network over a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. When we get to 11:40 we get to our second session, creative economy and manufacturing. That then leads on to lunch, of course, at 12:45, followed by the third and final formal session where we're going to be talking about creative business and entrepreneurship. Then at the end of the session, I think Liang is going to try and draw together some of the threads from today. If you can, do stay on after the formal end of the session because we've got a number of things going on, some case demonstrations. Obviously there's a time for networking. You will have seen that there's some equipment and materials for you to have a look at on the tables in here already. If you would like to have a look round our Centre for Additive Layer Manufacturing, you can do so, but please could you sign up on the list for the tour. I think the list is on that table over there. So if you are interested in that, the tour lasts for less than 30 minutes. So that's the shape of the day. I'm going to now switch off the mic, so it'll go a little bit quieter at this end, and then we'll come back to you if we may in a few minutes. He says. Worth. Okay. So I was asked to speak on the topic of bridging research and economic impacts. So we had a little think about that. What does that mean? Bridging research and economic impacts. So like any good academic, we thought we needed to define it. What do we mean by economic impact? That's quite a broad term, isn't it? And how can we define it then? Well, possibly it could be the effect of, in this instance we're talking about research in particular, the effect of research on the long-term economic growth of well-being of a nation, so right up at the national level. And in a sense, direct impacts are rather easier for us to measure, aren't they, and quantify. And in that case, these could well include research or knowledge transfer projects leading to nice numbers, economic numbers such as turnover, increased turnover, profits, cost benefits, efficiency, and so on, that sort of thing. So that's the rather easier element of economic impact I think we can quantify. Of course, there will be more indirect impacts, economic impacts, arguably of equal importance or even more importance, such as those associated with health, quality of life, and culture. So you might well ask then, what is the role of a university in economic impact? Does it have a role? Well, according to the Wilson Review, which was published this year, they certainly do. And there's a direct quote from the Wilson Review: universities are an integral part of the supply chain to business, a supply chain that has capacity or capability to support business growth and therefore economic prosperity. That seems pretty clear, doesn't it? Universities, part of a chain linking and supporting business growth, linking to, they say economic prosperity, we say economic impact. And it is a fact that there has been and continues to be significant public investment in universities, when one thinks about research in particular. And that, of course, drives the need for us to, let's say, evidence our translation of research that we do at universities into economic benefits to the nation, i.e. the funder. And evidence is required not only by government, but also by other funders, by students. I think increasingly students are interested in economic impact, by our customers, and by communities themselves. So I would argue, and I think we would argue as a university, that we do have a significant role in economic impact. So then what about here at the University of Exeter? What do we do? Well, I think we have a culture that values impact. I'm not sure that was always the case here, but in recent years I think it is the case. And what do I mean by that culture that rewards or values impacts? Well, for example, we have an annual Impact Awards event where we celebrate the impact of university research externally. We have a university impact strategy group, no less, that thinks about our research and how it links to economic impact. That is there specifically to encourage and acknowledge impactful work. And how do we do that? How does that go down to an individual? Well, all of our academic colleges have workload planners. So all individuals, all individual academics, their time is noted in a workload planner. And now we can and we do specifically allocate time for impact, research impact work. So we go right from a high-level strategic goal of being, developing a culture right through to frontline activity. We invest in people. We run impact training now for our PhD students, for our postdoctoral researchers, and also for early career researchers. We invest in projects. We have a University Open Innovation Fund or platform, whereby academics and businesses in collaboration can bid for significant, I was going to say pump prime funding, but actually some significant funding to develop impactful research. And of course, we're investing in companies. We have a University Innovation Centre. In fact, we have 2 innovation centres across the car park outside. We are partners in the Exeter Science Park and have a number of strategic partnerships, for example, with the Met Office. So, going along the theme of bridging disciplines, I run a project called the Exeter Science Exchange. Now, this was not specifically set up to bridge research and economic impacts, but it was set up to bridge disciplines within a university. And EPSRC, Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Council, has funded us to bring together different disciplines. Now, for those of you outside universities might find it strange that we need to actually incentivise people to do that, but we do, because our university silos are very strong, and we think here at Exeter we're quite good at breaking down those walls, and this is one way. It's promoting interdisciplinary research, and of course that is leading on to bridging not just between disciplines, but also between disciplines and industry or practice. So, for example, our steering group has members from the Met Office on it, from IBM, and there's some example workshops. Innovation for emerging markets. We're looking at innovation, how we can make our work to be more innovative, and also a recent project workshop on making an impact. Collaboration, a very successful collaborative scheme that's run over the past 5 years called Great Western Research, not Great Western Railways, for those of you with a railway bent, Great Western Research. And that's been a project funded to the tune of 40 or so million, collaboration between universities in the southwest and businesses. And when you reflect back on how well that is done, you know, we see some 80 new PhD collaborations, research clusters, increase of over £3.5 million in business investment in research. So that's been a very successful way for universities in the southwest collaborating. Another version of that, industrial doctorate centres. These are national centres. We participate in 2, one in the water sector, one in the offshore renewable sector, both areas we have strength here. And these are 5-year centres that sponsor doctorates in business. They're NHD, they're 4 years long. So it's research with an industrial focus, an industrial output. Knowledge transfer. Currently we run 2 business technology centres. The one that's most relevant to you, and you'll see a lot of today, hopefully, is CALM, Centre for Additive Layer Manufacturing, but also another one on business and climate solutions. And here we're linking our business centres to provide facilities and access to academics and research excellence and to get that out into business. So for example, we would support 2 days free of charge in our interaction with SMEs, and then if they require further work, we can go on with them. And it's a way really of interacting with customers who may never have had any interaction with the university. If you're an SME, that's probably less unlikely. So we're trying to make them as friendly and accessible as possible. An example of a spin-out company from Exeter, Simpleware. Simpleware develops software that takes 3D image data and converts that into computer models. It's been very successful, 40% per annum growth over the last 5 years. And the strategy they've used is to reinvest their income back into the company. And as you see, some rather impressive looking companies there, and won the Queen's Award for Enterprise and Innovation this year. So that's just an example of how research can have an economic impact. And then finally, I thought I would flash this up of Liang Hao here, our world's first chocolate printer developer, and you're going to hear a lot more about chocolate, obviously, as the morning goes on. So that was just by way of introduction, really, to set the scene for the day. To establish you're in the right place. You're here, that we're very interested in the university in promoting the link between research and economic impact, and therefore we're very interested in this agenda that you're talking about today, creativity, business, innovation and economic impact. So that takes us nicely into our first session on creative research, and I think I will now need to speak into the microphone. So that brings us nicely to our first session on creative research and innovation, and I'm very pleased to introduce our first speaker. Eminegul Karababa is, it says on my piece of paper here, University of Southern Denmark, but on another piece of paper it says something else, and no doubt Emmy will explain why that is. She's going to speak on chocolate value creation, co-creation, understanding the chocolate experience. Emmy, I'm afraid we are a bit short of time, so we only have 15 minutes, and if possible, could we allow a little bit of time in that for some questions? So I'm going to hand over to you now. Thank you very much. Oh, just one thing to say. We have your slides here on PowerPoint. If you could just give us a nod when you're ready for us to change, we'll flip through the screens for you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, I am moving from Denmark to Turkey. That's why currently I am affiliated with two institutions. Luckily, I will move to Turkey by the end of August. What I'm going to present today is more about approaching creative innovation from a business development perspective. And myself and my colleague Irene Ng and our research assistant Susan Wakinshaw, the business team for the chocolate co-creation project, the EPSRC granted project where Dr. Liang is kind of the principal investigator. In the project, our role is to develop a business plan for this creative innovation. So in my presentation, first I'm going to introduce our rationale behind this project as a business team, how we're approaching marketing a creative innovation, and what type of processes we have to kind of study, work on. Then I'm going to demonstrate our approach by using our current research findings, and then kind of make a short discussion about our future plans. So if you can kind of switch to the next slide. The rationale behind the marketing team or the business team is the recent late modern consumer culture and how consumer and the market operate in this context. Today, we understand, the business people understand consumers as producers. So it is no more the passive consumer, but the consumer is very active. And there are two developments in this situation. One of them is the technological development, which allows consumers to co-produce physical products. So the good example is the customization of Nike shoes, where you can pick and choose the colors and kind of create something specifically for yourself. And the second development is in the marketing field, which shifted attention from mass marketing to the active participation of the consumer in the creation of different types of value. So it is not only creating the product itself, but also consumers start to produce experiences for themselves. So they enjoy whatever they're consuming. It is not only the utility, the function, but the experience, the joy, pleasure that they gain from the product. Also, consumers produce their identity through consumption. And it is kind of, they generally play with the meaning, symbolic meaning in this creation process. So when you look at the consumer as a producer, as a marketing team, we see two sides. Consumers who can produce the product, also consumers who can produce the meaning, symbolic values, social values around this product or market offering. So that is the rationale behind the business team when we're approaching this creative innovation. And the aim of the project that we've been working on is to develop an integrated user-based or consumer-based design for a co-production tool, which is in our case the 3D chocolate additive layer manufacturing device, which you're going to see today, a demo of it, and the web service system. Again, you're going to see a demo of it, Coco Worksite, that will support a value creation business solution to facilitate the interactions between users and the producers for the co-production of chocolate products and bring enriched, personalized experience and value to you, users and all consumers. So basically, it is a tool which allows consumers to produce at different levels. So if you can switch to slide 4. I think I missed one of them. So in the first stage of the research process, our aim is to kind of be able to create an offering to the consumer. But chocolate is, you know, this innovative, creative kind of 3D machine is using a material, chocolate, And it is very much embedded in social life, the mundane everyday life. So people, it's not, the product or the material is not something out of the social life. People have associations with chocolate. They, in everyday life, they have specific practices and rituals built around chocolate consumption. And they experience chocolate at a physiological level as well. So people are used to chocolate. Then let's take this the other slide. So when designing a web interface, when creating a kind of an offering which enables consumers to create value for himself or herself, we basically need to think about the social understanding around chocolate as well. Otherwise, they would kind of lose their familiarity, their association with the chocolate. So we basically look at 3 types of values which have been defined by David Graeber, the famous anthropologist. The economic value, the exchange value, basically the price, which is very important for human development, be it profitable development. Social values, norms and rules that kind of define chocolate consumption, and the meanings of chocolate. So the economic value part is the last part that we're going to deal with. Before that, we decided to understand what are the social values, like getting overweight if you eat too much chocolate, or kind of finding out appropriate chocolate as a gift for the friend for a birthday. So those types of social values and symbolic values, the meanings of chocolate, like indulgence, love, happiness, that kind of identify chocolate. So these 2 different types of values, what consumers have in their minds about these values, that's what we want to kind of understand first, to be able to design a web interface that can deliver these values to consumers, and then our plan is to kind of make an economic analysis around these values to identify the values that have priority for the consumer. So if you can go to the number 6, slide number 6. So basically, after to be able to identify the social and symbolic values, we conducted qualitative research. And our aim is to kind of develop an interface that contains features which make consumers to be able to attain these values at the end. And our aim is to transform these co-created social linguistic values to economic value later on. So slide number 7, we conducted 11 in-depth interviews with British chocolate consumers coming from different backgrounds. The interviews were long. Interviews lasted about 45 minutes to 1 hour, and we basically questioned the practices of consumers generating different types of value in different chocolate consumption contexts, such as Christmas, birthdays, everyday consumption at home, whatever. Slide number 8. So what are our findings? I'm not going to give all of the findings because we don't have that much time, but I'm going to kind of talk some of them to give you an idea. So after getting all the interviews, our analysis, which is based on practice theory and value theory, showed us that one of the values that people do get from in everyday life, from chocolate consumption, is physiological value. So getting more energy. And the practice that they do is through eating. So that is one of the ways that they gain value out of chocolate consumption. And it's generally after workout or even in the daytime when they're working in the job. The second type of value is social bonding. So people basically share chocolate. So sharing is a practice that they do with family, friends, colleagues to be able to attain a social bonding. This is very important for chocolate consumption. Also, they not only eat chocolate together, share it together, but most of the consumers are also interested in using chocolate when making chocolate-related products like cake, or some of them even interested in making chocolate at home or at some workshops that they attend and to learn how to basically do chocolate truffles or any type of chocolate. It also, making of chocolate also creates a social bonding. Also, when they are making these chocolates, they gain pleasure through aesthetic creation. That is another type of value which is very relevant for our case. So, at home or at a chocolate workshop, the consumers, they basically learn specific skills, they create something, and it is a value for them. Also, when they are making chocolate together, they kind of compete, they make jokes, and this also, the play side of it, like the kids getting together and playing, they are playing the chocolate, and this also creates a value, a pleasure for the consumers. Of course, self-actualization, kind of learning how to make a chocolate, or pleasure through achievement, and the success when they are making a chocolate, are also other types of values for the consumer. Also, consumers construct an identity. There is an identity value created as well in this process. So making chocolate individually, or by gift giving, presenting a gift, or by self-gifting, buying yourself a gift, or by sharing, people basically construct their identity. So for example, when they are making a chocolate, a specific design of the chocolate might represent the person. Or when giving a dark chocolate to a friend means that I am sophisticated, I have a sophisticated taste. So those kinds of things, those meanings also kind of create a value. Also, people do experience nostalgia. So when they're consuming retro brands, old tastes that relate to their individual histories or specific periods like 1980s or whatever, they also gain some value. So slide 11, I'm jumping. Also, there are negative social values like guilt. So there are certain norms that define chocolate consumption as well. So not eating too much, high calories, makes people feel guilty. Or addiction to chocolate, chocoholism. It also makes people kind of create this negative attitude or negative feeling about chocolate. Slide 12. So all these values that we identify and all these practices that kind of create these values, we decided to kind of transfer them to the web interface to be able to make consumers kind of create these values by using virtual practice. So one of them is the tree design practice that we have in the Cocoa Workshop website. So when they are designing it with the software, they attain these aesthetic creative pleasures. They attain the value of achievement. So they achieve something, which is a valuable thing for them. When they upload their design, it is more about the identity construction. If you kind of upload something really beautiful, interesting, it represents yourself. Next slide, number 13. We have a voting practice, or voting tool on the interface, which kind of shows a pleasure through play. So people kind of compete there. The competition creates kind of a pleasure. Also, we have tutorials. And tutorial tool on the website also creates some self-actualization. If you can finish that off, then you can be able to gain that skill, and it's kind of a value of self-actualization. So this is how we transfer, basically, this is a limited part of it because chocolate is very rich so, the data that we have is kind of very. What I am trying to show you, the kind of relation between the everyday life of chocolate consumption and how we try to transform those values to the interface by using tools that are available technologically. What are we planning right now? Slide number 14, please. So it is more about we want to learn some consumer feedback on the web interface. So does the CocoWord web interface contain practices that can enable consumers to co-create values around chocolate? So this is something we designed, but what consumers think about it? Do they kind of able to create these values, or which values can be co-created online, and which values cannot be created online? So that is also important. If the consumers have priority on certain values, we need to kind of be able to offer them those tools as well. And different groups of customers prefer different values and practices. And if we can be able to group the customers according to their priorities of values, then probably we can kind of choose among a few of them and kind of focus on one or two segments of the consumers, rather than kind of providing different types of values and making it kind of a big but junky website. And the last slide, please. So after the survey, we want to revisit the web interface by using the findings of the survey. And then the last and probably the most important part of the research is to transfer all these values that consumers are interested in, getting them and transforming them to the economic value. And we're going to use a conjoint analysis which enables consumers to kind of trade off between different value propositions that we can offer on the website, and try to see how much they would like to exchange economically for these values. So I think that is all of my presentation. Hope I'm on time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have a few minutes for questions. Does anybody in the audience have a question, Cami? Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. My name's Charlotte Valder, and I'm a professor of intellectual property law. And I just wanted to explore a little bit the extent to which that you might have taken into account the intellectual property framework in thinking about the values that you're looking at. I mean, from my perspective, the economic value is captured by the legal framework that protects intellectual property rights. And intellectual property rights would be the basis on which you would be able to develop a business model, because those are the ways in which the rights are protected. Now, intellectual property rights have an obsession with single or at the most joint authorship, and are not good with crowd creation. So to what extent have you thought about the interface between your values that you have in your model and the legal framework that would enable you to exploit the product in the marketplace?
Yeah, I think that is one of the biggest problems of this research. Copyright issues we've been dealing with, or kind of we've been discussing, although we didn't do any research on that right now. So currently we are trying to identify what can technologically and with the consumers, what they would like to do. After defining and deciding on that, then we would like to think about how we can deal with the copyright issues. You are definitely right, because there is this design thing at the end coming out, and when they start creating designs, then and when they started sharing with them, copyright issues definitely come out, and there might be alternative solutions for that. But we are not at that stage right now.
Okay.
And also, I think there are some, there is, at least as soon as I know, Liang has some connections with the law department about this copyright part as well, how to handle that.
Okay, thank you very much. One more question, please.
Hi, Justin Marshall from University College Falmouth. I was just interested, as part of your kind of study, did you do a kind of online contextual review? Because it seems the findings you came to were basically exactly the same as quite a wide variety of already kind of online co-creation sites like Threadless or Pinocchio or all those others. It's great to go back to basic principles, but you came to the same conclusions. So I'm just wondering whether your study is going to include other sites that are doing a similar job and not in chocolate.
Actually, yeah, we are discussing that as well within the group. So our findings from the qualitative research is very rich. And also we did, I didn't present that part, but we did a designer study as well to be able to understand what consumers or designers would be interested in seeing on an internet site. So it would be very interactive and very, very, it would be useful, or consumers would like to have a more interactive site where they can gain more pleasure, more experience, like gamification, competitions, kind of some discussion sessions where they can kind of collaborate on a design together. So our study basically points us toward a more interactive web design. However, within the limits of this research project, we need to kind of, because of the time limitation and everything, we need to kind of limit the web interface design at this level right now. But ideally, to do something, our findings from the qualitative research put forward that we need to kind of include more experiential elements into the web interface to gain all these different types of values.
Emmy, thank you very much indeed for answering those questions. Will you join me and say thank you to Emmy? Can I introduce Liang Hao now, please?
Hello, hi, everyone. Morning. Thank you very much to attend this workshop. Yeah, my name is Liang Hao. I used to be a technology guy or manufacturer guy. But last couple of years, my research moved more toward the interdiscipline, particularly connected with innovation and business. So my talk will be focused the creativity involved in manufacturing and innovation. Especially my interest in look at how to facilitate everyone like you to involve physical product and its value creation. So my talk, firstly, I will talk about why creative manufacturing and innovation is interesting to us and how it's helping us to solve the problem. Then we'll briefly present what the key element in the co-creation of physical product. Lastly, I will present a research case study on chocolate co-creation. So I think most things surround us. Physical product like the computer here, chair, clothes. Those are the output of manufacturing. So manufacturing definitely important for us. But fundamentally, the manufacturing is to transfer the materials, into the good for us to use. Then the producer can sell and value for it. And the key here is transfer materials to high value products. So purpose is to create value. Then innovation is the key. That's for us to create a better product and for people to use more product more effectively or more efficiently. So current days, industry are focused on more centralized manufacturing and innovation. In that way, they have much more resources and professional expertise to build a manufacturing capacity, and they have a innovation capacity as well. Definitely, they do a very good job to improve the efficiency, transfer materials to the functional product, and also for a lot of products actually are very good product and actually is quite good to serve their function. But fundamentally, they do have problems. Yeah, particularly. All production is centralized, then product have to transfer in longer distance. Then key problem is at the end of product life is really difficult or is not economically we take them product back to the manufacturer and repair it. So we have to waste quite a lot of materials at the end of product. That's definitely not good for our environment. And also for the mass production, you need more stabilized power to ensure the productivity. You have sometimes machine working to 24 hours. You can't stop power, so you have to use mass-produced power, electricity that involve a lot of emission. Yeah, of course there are some other issues associated, but I think the key problem is the waste and the emission. But definitely there are a good side which provide us a lot of product for us to use. But it's so dominant at the moment, so we have to find a way to solve the problem like waste and emission. So that's why something is missing in the mass production. So that's the so last year I looked at one paper, then I realized what was wrong. Actually, you can see the mass production. Yeah, they're actually really good for improve the provision of product use the resources. Production, we can really improve this efficiency, and also product we can make very good product on the functional. But the issue is that they have less connection with the customers. Yeah, because they have longer distance, you not really engage the customer, and all the production now quite running automatically in the machine plant. So you have few people to really interact with customer. So in that case, customer efficiency or the use efficiency is quite low, yeah, because the users really don't have a power to influence that. When we talk about the consumption, customer satisfaction, actually that's related to the value, which Amy just explained. Actually, the value efficiency is not really improved. So in that case, the people will be, by the end, the waste the product. Although we have really high efficiency to provide that product, but the final use and value of product still be problem because there's a breaking between the customer and the producers. So that's bring my research to a different. I want to do differently. That's why very interested in the creative manufacturing and innovation. The key thing here is to involve people. Yeah, people are the use of that product. Actually, they can identify the problem. Some is functional, some is the use. And another thing, these people need to talk to each other, share their ideas, then they can bring back to how to create things. And also once they have we have a lot of creativity, then we can access a lot of distributed resources, like renewable energy can be in your home and nearby place. Then you look at how to produce product in the local place. Once you have that skill, then you're able to more pay attention to how to extend the product life, or either taking the product in the closed place to transfer into another product. Definitely, I think that will be potentially a solution to a sustainable future in the society. So one key element for sustainability is the co-creation of physical product. So the key here is there's connection between the producers and the customer. So the producer need to understand more about customer, and the customer need to understand more about the producer, what they can offer. Then they can bring things together. But the critical thing is how they co-create the final of the value product. And in the meantime, they can be sharing their value, so they can have motivation to do more about value co-creation. I think most of us, like you sitting here, have ideas and a product, and also a lot of digital technology are available for us to making product, particularly sharing the idea about the consumption, the value of product, and also sharing all this information through the website. But I think the majority of us haven't really created product and created business. So they still need to tools to facilitate that process. So that's our research focus. One thing here, the idea need to transfer the product. Even I work in the engineering environment, I still not really familiar with that design software to transfer to the product, then making it another big barrier to stop us to transfer that to the product. So that's my research currently focus on the design software to make it easy for people to design, and also provide tools for people to transfer that product to the prototype, so you can refine and test market. Then another thing, this have to be linked with business model, because once you have created product ideas, you want to realize it. Okay, what either is you for yourself, and but more importantly, you want to be shared with others as well. Then you want to be sharing. Then you need business model to facilitate value creation as well. You want to capture that value, so make this process is more sustainable. So basically, we want to scale up, engage more people to involve in that process. But that is quite a challenging task, because when we ask people to, because people have not used to create physical product. Previously, they have a craftsman nearby, you know how things is making, but now you really have a few chance to go to the factory to see how product is made. So we try to scale up, engage users. Then really luckily we have chance to involve chocolate creation. Then we invented a 3D chocolate printer. Then we found actually we now really need to engage people to design, create chocolate. Because producer won't have that capacity to design every chocolate for every customer. So that's brings us to the EPRC Digital Economy project. So firstly, we look at how we help people to design. And also we want to relate to low cost, so we can engage more people, scale up this process. So we're looking at Google SketchUp because it's a well-known software, and it's also free to download. But Google SketchUp is more designed for the architecture design, and is not user-friendly for chocolate design. So then we look at how we embed tools into the process. You can see there are some chocolate color bar on the top. That's the sorry. Okay, so I couldn't make it more clear. Okay, so that's we designed the user interface in the bar. So in that case, if you click the bar, then for like a basic shape, you can pop in the screen. Then you can quickly have a design. Then you can modify it. And a lot of tools like this, if you import the image, then we can have a extract boundary, then transfer it to the 3D, then upload. And also later I will show the website that you can also download the model from there. I want to go to the detail. This afternoon we have a demonstration of this software, so you can stay to know more detail about this interface. Okay, this is the that bar. Then another thing, as Amy mentioned, we want to capture value, particularly for chocolate. One important thing is the social value. People like to share the pleasures associated with chocolate. Particularly when you become a designer, you want to have an audience to appreciate your product. So that's what we try to facilitate. So we do create a web interface, we call the Coco Works. Actually, this will be officially launched next Monday. So you can see we have a gallery for people to upload a model. Then we set up design challenge. This is Olympic feature. We want people engaged to competition and talking about the website. And we have tutorial to give people the skill for Google SketchUp to design chocolate. People can download our software. And also we want to use Facebook about people to talk about the sharing their experience. Again, this we will do the demonstration later afternoon. Definitely this process, we need create value and also capture value. We I think business team looking at what's the value, and also we want to find the best way to more efficiently to capture value. Here is some concept. So definitely we can empower people, make more personal input, have personalized product. Then we have a design library to store that product. But most importantly, it does need to help business to create business. So we look at two solutions. One is personalized product, and definitely a lot of lead for personalized product. But also another stream is we also look at that we have most popular product. Actually, this we also want to facilitate. It's like X factor, yeah. Some people involved to create a design, then a lot of people will be voting, then they will become out the popular product. Yeah, that's the product we believe is have most efficiency in terms of manufacturing as well as value sharing. Yeah, so we try to satisfy that two needs. So what we approach is that we have a creativity from people, and also we integrate that with mass producers to provide more popular products. So best capture value and value in the use as well as in the production stage. Okay, this model needs to be sustainable. So I think for chocolate machine, I think one benefit we can place the machine locally, less transport product. I think one particular benefit is more fresh. Then also in terms of design, we can design more porous chocolate, reduce the amount of chocolate, so that could be more sustainable. So just briefly summarize. 3 years ago, I see this picture with my wife. I was very excited. Particularly it's our first boy. Yeah, I think I may be more excited to receive this. of course, you can't go back. But I can see now actually the digital data really well connected with the physical product. So I think that gives us a lot of opportunity to create a physical product and create value. I think that's where we change our life experience and lifestyle. But another more also important thing is we have a really good opportunity to create value, to create a physical product. But at the end of our life, we won't take these things with us. Okay. So another important thing, we want to leave more to our next generation. So I think that's the core of the creativity we want to engage to create another lifestyle which can give you more value in your life experience, as well as we can leave more for next generation. So at the end, I'd like to thank all the team supporting this project. Actually, it's involved quite a lot of people. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm sure you do have questions, but if we could just hold the questions to the end of this session. Can I introduce then Stephen Mellor, who's going to speak now?
Morning, my name is Stephen Mellor, and I'm a PhD student here at Exeter. And I've been asked today to kind of give an idea of the student experience with some of the creative projects that we've had going here at Exeter. I've been here for about 6 years now, but most of the projects I'll be talking to you about have been going on for about the past, during my PhD study and the latter years of my undergraduate. So yeah, I'm using Prezi, so hopefully no one will get nauseous during this because there's quite a lot of spinning around. But yeah, what I hope to do through this is to provide an insight into some of the 3D printing and creative research projects here at Exeter. And hopefully I'm in a position to kind of say how they influence the student experience. And also we have some 3D printing services here at Exeter, and we kind of give an idea of how they support the students and maybe some of their business ideas. And also my real passion and what I do my PhD research on is industrial implementation of 3D printing or additive manufacturing. And I'll give it's only 15 minutes, so I'll just give a brief insight into some of the things that I've been looking at on that side. So yeah, the content of the presentation, we'll talking a lot more about chocolate. So the first two projects are really what was originally, when I was involved in it, was the ALM project. So this was a 4th year project developing the system, and then talk a little bit about the spin out company and my role within that as a student. And then we'll talk about the creative lab. So this is the 3D printing service that we give to students. And then finally those thoughts on industrial implementation. So I'll take you back to, this was 2009. This was the Chalk ALM project that I was involved with. So it was in the 2nd year of the machine's development. It was being run as a group student project. That's the team there. That's us outside the R&D facility of Cadbury's. So they supported the project. Good company to have support in this kind of project, obviously. They supplied quite a lot of chocolate and some money. And basically, through our experience, what we experienced was this kind of technology development process. So you can see the guys before have kind of done the proof of concept stuff, and we kind of tried to bring it towards a more commercial prototype. And you can see kind of just on the product quality, how we improved there from them 2 top pictures. And what we really developed there was, through that, was the kind of materials knowledge, and a lot on the application development side. So, and a big part of that is the design for process. So, there's quite a lot of design that has to go in when you consider 3D printing is often sold as you can make whatever you want, but there are a lot of design guidelines, or new design guidelines I should say, that need to be followed. What we also did was on kind of the market side. We did some market analysis, and yeah, we were amazed at the size of the UK chocolate market, and particularly the growth in this kind of high-value, personalised chocolate products. And what we also did was we engaged with the industrial and research communities, and also the general public. But this was one of our objectives from the outset, and we were really surprised at how easy this was, and how easy it was to disseminate the results of the project, just because we have this kind of product, a chocolate product. And there's so much emotion attached to that when you're using that kind of raw material there. We found that just the idea, and when we contacted companies and more just like news articles and things like that, we were already in a really good position to engage with people. So from there, it was back, I think it was February, the Chalk Edge Limited was started up as a company, and I started use some of that knowledge that and that experience from that project and my PhD study. I work as a business development manager for this company, and just to give you an idea of really some of the findings that we found when we, or personally anyway. Again, we were really, it was amazing that just the amount of public interest and industry as well, which makes it a lot easier when you're commercialising a product. Obviously, if everyone's really excited about it before they've really seen it go in there, it's quite an achievement, and it gives you a good start off really. But what we also found was just when I say lack of industrial awareness, I mean around 3D printing. So there's certain industries which know a lot about this process, and so aerospace and other industries like that, like medical as well. But the kind of industries we were looking at and the kind of companies we were looking at, they knew very little about the process. So we had to, it wasn't a case of just handing over a machine as well, so you buy this machine, we give it to you. A lot of what we have to do is applications development, because we need to hand over a solution, not just a system. And this involves a lot of work on developing the process chains. So this being a product idea, kind of print my face also in chocolate, there's actually quite a lot of steps involved in something like that. And for us to be able to provide that solution, we need to automate as many as possible. So this is kind of a lot of the work that we're doing right now. If I move on to another project that we have, so in the corner over there you can see a little 3D printer, and we also have a little CNC machine, but we set up this kind of capacity for 3D printing, and we call it Creative Lab. And although my role within this is kind of service managed, but this is really run by the students for the students, in that we have 2 or 3 lab technicians. They concentrate on providing the service, and we train them up on some of the design stuff and how to use the machine, and then they kind of take that on themselves. So I think it just adds to the experience, particularly that's mainly in engineering, but this service is provided throughout the university, and these are just some of the products or some of the parts that we've had coming off the system and we've had requests for. So a lot of the time it is prototypes, because the properties of the parts that come out, they're very good for prototypes, but mainly not for end products in many cases. But talking about bridging the gaps and things like that, what we do have is what we are able to do. So we work with physics students if they need to get a part out for some testing purposes. You can see in the middle here, this was some sort of Venturi tube that they wanted. We're able to provide that capacity. This chap wanted to, well, he was doing some CFD modelling on a wind tower, aircraft control tower, and he wanted to quickly get a small prototype out to stick in a wind tunnel. And that's something, if you, as a student project, the nature of them, they run quite quickly, and you have to move through the different stages very quickly. And when we can turn a part around like that in a matter of hours instead of days or weeks for a student, it makes a big difference. And this is another one, so the bottom picture is Mod My Pine, and these guys are going to talk a bit more about that, so I won't go into detail, but early on in their development we gave them a bit of prototyping. When they had some prototyping needs, we facilitated that. They then went on to the CALM, so the Centre for Additive Layer Manufacturing, and once they were set up as a business, they were able to help them more and provide more prototyping and some low volume manufacturing. So that's just an idea of how these 3D printing can really enhance the student experience and aid them in their projects. So we're just going to talk a little bit now and hopefully relate the stuff that we do here to the stuff that is going on in the industry. So this is a picture you may have seen before, so which was had the Third Industrial Revolution title to it. So this idea that this chap is sat where he's sat with his little micro factory, and he's able to print off or produce whatever parts he wants on demand wherever he is in the world. And I'm sure most of you know that's not the case at the minute. People aren't really doing that. So I just want to go through kind of what I've looked at some of the opportunities and challenges for kind of the industrial implementation side. So the opportunities for 3D printing really is most of the applications at the minute are driven by this new design freedom. So because we build in this additive way, we're able to unlock a lot of new design freedom. Although it's not complete, we can't just build what we want. There is, compared to traditional processes, there are a lot of improvements. We're also, because we remove things like tooling, it's feasible to get economic low volume production. So you don't have to offset that cost of tooling over large volumes. And then one of the big drivers, maybe for particularly in medical and dental, is this idea of customized and personalized production. And the idea that you can take a CT scan of someone's face or jaw or something like that, and through maybe some of the polymer and metal processes, you can then print one off and it will be the exact, it was fit exactly for that patient. And then, as Liang talked a bit about before, the possibility of distributed production. So in theory, this isn't really the case much of the time. All you need is your CAD and your powder, or whatever your raw material, and quite a small machine. So you could distribute manufacturing according to its demand. So what are the main challenges, or what are some of the challenges that I think that are related to some of the creative projects that we've got going here and are going on in other universities? There are a lot of technical barriers to adoption, and there's a lot of things to work out. There's a lot of work on applications development and working out reliable process change. But I think that, and what we've seen through the case studies that we did, the organisational issues are probably most prominent and create the biggest barrier to adoption in many cases. So a lot of the time that's the experience and skill gap between maybe traditional manufacturers and when they want to move into this 3D printing. So obviously this is where centres like the Centre for ALM here, they come into really helping out with this, fulfilling this kind of experience and skill gap, and helping companies to move forward. And also the massive cultural changes that come from moving from subtractive to additive. So some of these like kind of rules and the ways we work have been around since the Industrial Revolution, and that means that when we're trying to break down these barriers, there's a lot of resistance. So some of the production engineering rules that we tend to apply to most things, they don't really apply to 3D printing. And another thing that we found as well is that apart from certain sectors, industry knowledge still is quite lacking, and it remains relatively low outside of these sectors. So that hopefully just gives an idea of some of the challenges which are open to the industrial implementation side. And just some quick concluding thoughts. I think I've called them emotional products, like those which come from the chalk edge system. They're really good at promoting the diffusion of these technologies, mainly because of what I've said, they create awareness quite easily. And I think that awareness of 3D printing does filter down to the other processes as well. I think some of the creative research projects that we've got going on here will provide this next generation of entrepreneurs, which will facilitate this revolution. And not just our research projects here, but projects like RepRap, these very low-cost like 3D printers where hobbyists are beginning to use them. And there was, I remember last year there was at least 4 or 5 students which were invested in a 3D printer over an academic year. So even if it's not on the syllabus in many places at the moment, these kind of projects really do facilitate this this knowledge gain. And finally, I can say from experience and from those around me, is that these kind of creative projects also, they're a lot of fun. So you enjoy yourself whilst you do it. Okay, so that's it from me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm aware we are running out of time. I will try to be brief. I'm Hua Dong from Brunel University. We have a research group called Inclusive Design Research. We participated in this project. Oh, sorry, there's some font change on the screen, but ignore that. We participated in this CocoWorks multidisciplinary project. Our role in the project is really to look chocolate co-creation from inclusive design viewpoint. What does that mean? Inclusive design basically it means you design products, services, interfaces to suit the use of the largest possible population without using specialized design. In many cases, we can see this inclusive design approach applied in assistive technology, making access computer interfaces, etc. But we think the methodology could be easily translated into this chocolate project. A typical methodology we use for inclusive design is extreme users. There's a philosophy for inclusive design which is if you design for younger people, you exclude old people. But if you design for the older people, you include the young people. In that case, old people is extreme user groups. But for chocolate project, who are the extreme users? We as a team identified 2 groups. One is chocolate lovers who really are mad with chocolate because they know the value of chocolate consumption. So that was a group we interviewed with the business team earlier in the project. And another group, you guess who would be the other group, extreme in terms of chocolate co-creation? Who would be another extreme group? Oh, okay. No, because we've already looked at chocolate lovers. They will represent who really love it. They will be critical in the prototype we come out of, but not those who are not interested in chocolate.
Children?
Why?
Well, they're all sugar.
Okay. Not all the children like chocolate, but
in the play and the artistic side of it.
Okay, that's a creative answer. It will overlap with some chocolate lovers, but let's see co-creation of chocolate. We've addressed chocolate, but what's the co-creation? Who are doing co-creation, creation all the time? Designers. You know, if you're designing some interface for people to interact, it should be relevant to all the end users. But designers, they have their specific design of user interface. If you can make it work for designers, potentially it will work for other people as well because we have more critical requirements. So our role focuses very much on understanding how designers are going to use this interface. Okay, this is a methodology we often use for inclusive design research. It's a human-centered approach. Human is in the center. We have basic needs and higher level needs. For this chocolate project, we are really addressing the higher level needs. And often we need to consider to make the product useful, usable, desirable, and sustainable. And for this project, we especially focused on making the interface usable and desirable. And the other 3 aspects is user involvement, understanding different stakeholders, and the multidisciplinary collaboration. So for the chocolate project, we involve the 2 groups of users in the process, and this is multidisciplinary team. In the earlier stage, we tried to interview designers and chocolate lovers with the business team and the rest to understand their needs. And later, we built some prototypes, the engineering team here and the computing team. So we invited designers to test those prototypes to see whether there's any aspects we could improve. So we have 18 people participating. They are all design students in the university. 10 female, 10 male, 8 female, and age ranges from 18 to 40. They are from undergraduate students to PhD students. Their experience with Google SketchUp, which is a basic platform for this new chocolate co-creation interface. Novice users were 11, which is not surprising. Not all the designers are familiar with Google SketchUp. Intermediate users were 6. We have less advanced users, but they really offer critical insights into the testing. So this is the interface. You can see that's a typical Google SketchUp interface, but on the top here, you see a lot of specific features for chocolate co-creation, those basic shapes in chocolate color. And we offered this interface to all the designers. They tested this individually, and we gave them a pre-questionnaire asking about their experience of using any co-creation software. And then we asked them to do a set of tasks. For example, draw a heart shape, then extrude it, enlarge it, decorate it, etc. We timed those, and we asked them to think aloud in the process, so we know what they are thinking, what they are commenting on the features. And then we give them 5 minutes free playing with the software and look at what it can come out with the software. To our surprise, designers, we probably think they will be using more creative way, more radical ways of developing chocolates, but many of them actually preferred to draw some basic shapes and working from there. Because that problem reflects a common pattern of all the users. When you are given the opportunity to design something of your own, you probably prefer to start with some basic shapes. So this is one example of the designer's created chocolate pyramids and the other chocolate greeting card. So overall satisfaction of the earlier prototype was 2.9. We are using a 1 to 5 scale. 1 is least like, 5 is most like. And ease of use is 3.1. So we then feedback all this to the engineering and computing team to improve. And 11 out of 18 would like to use that tool. Some consider they would. There's only one user said he would not like to use that tool. Based on the user testing, we gave some suggestions to the team. Oh, suggestions are gone. So I'll tell you what are the suggestions. Some of them are related to, we should hide some less used features because there's a lot of buttons, and especially from the original Google SketchUp buttons, we are not using them in this specific context. And they were quite distracting because people need to spend more time to find useful buttons. And also, designers were suggesting actually we should have a video tutorial at the beginning. When you actually start the software, then it tells you the basic features, so you don't need to explore by yourself. We also suggest to label some key icons, because icons can be confusing. We find a lot of people struggle with the extrusion icon. If we can label them, then it will be much easier for lay people to use. Some designers also suggest we should have a preview feature, so what I designed, I can preview it before I send it off, and even to add augmented reality. I can actually see it when people receive it, how they will review the final design. So all of those will feed in the further development of this software. Lastly, okay, I think I can leave you to explore this case study, because for the project we took two approaches. The engineering computing team here in Exeter, they have to deliver something which is going to work. So it's more practical approach to the chocolate co-creation. They use Google SketchUp as a basic form. But as a design team, apart from interviewing designers, developing, testing the software, we also took the opportunity to actually to be more open-minded, to envisage what would be the ideal situation if we are not going to use Google SketchUp. So we have a research assistant who designed a totally new interface, which enables people to create chocolate in a very intuitive and fun way. Basically, it's like a grid, and you can click maybe a heart shape or a person shape or a Christmas tree shape, and then you print that, you can break it into pieces. So it gets that meaning of easy to create and easy to share. So it's all in this CD, and I understand the computer actually works for this software. So I leave it here for you to play with. I will join you perhaps later in the afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I realise coffee is calling, but I also realise that there must be questions that you would like to ask any of the last three speakers. So does anybody want to ask a pre-coffee question?
I've got a quick observation. In Brazilian Portuguese, cocoa has a very specific meaning, which is not the meaning you want. And it strikes me as interesting that in a networked world, you don't know where your people are coming in from. And actually, you do need to think about different languages and different cultures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. Thank you. Anything else? You're all ready for coffee. Okay, thank you. We'll break now. If we can come back, please, at 11:45.